Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I am the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. And today we are going to be doing a fun tutorial on how to glitter and epoxy these stainless steel spray bottles. These are so cute and so much fun. I was super inspired by Joanna Livingston's tutorial on how she puts these on her turner. Now, since I have a different kind of turner, I had to figure out a different way to do this. So I'm going to go over that in this video. If you guys have the Bowen turner like I do, then you're going to want to see how this is done. I also show you how to do a super cute Lily Pulitzer inspired design on this that I just think, I don't know, there's something about Lily Pulitzer and monograms and pink that just really get to me. I think it's a classic look that'll always be super cute. And these are just so much fun. Like, these make great gifts for hairstylists. They make great gifts for your Tumblr friends. I know that I currently use these, I put a spray nozzle in my rubbing alcohol and it's not very cute. So I made one of these for myself for my rubbing alcohol. So these are great gift ideas, so much fun. I'm going to show you how. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so normally, like if you have one of these kind of turners where you have the PVC pipe, these are usually like do-it-yourself kind of type arms, and they'd have the pool noodle on them. It would be pretty easy to get this on there. Joanne Livingston has a great tutorial on how to connect these spray bottles to these traditional type PVC arms, and I will have a link to her video for that down below. I no longer use arms like that because I have the Bowen turner system, and so I have these kind of PVC arms. So old style is open, this new style I'm using is closed for the blank arms that they have, not to be confused with the regular cup chucks. Okay, so I have the end of it here. And what I've done is I have a bottle of 70% rubbing alcohol that I don't really use for much. I took the spray portion of the spray bottle off and replaced it with the regular cap. I'm just gonna do this for now until I'm done with my project. This is just so I don't waste all this rubbing alcohol until I could put like some foil or a different cap over it. Mainly, I'm just after this cap. So if you guys have an empty one of these, oops, and you want to, you know, just use the cap off of it, that's great. So, and it doesn't have to be a rubbing alcohol bottle, whatever kind of cap you can find that will fit onto the threads of this spray bottle. And then we're going to attach it on here like this. Okay, so how do we attach it on here? So what I'm going to do is we are going to rough up the top of this cap really quick. Probably not completely necessary, but just to make sure that we have something that glue is going to adhere to. Then I'm going to take a little bit of acetone, clean off that top, make sure I get all the debris and stuff off of there. Okay, now this cap is super hard to open. Like, it's not just going to open on its own, so don't worry about that part. Then I'm going to clean off the end of this cup arm. This is already pretty rough, so I don't need to worry about sanding that. Then I'm going to take a Gorilla Glue. This is just regular clear Gorilla Glue. Alternatively, you could probably use hot glue. So for this, I totally ended up using hot glue because the other glue took too long to dry. So we're just going to put a little bit of that on there. And we're just gonna put that there. You're gonna wanna let this dry for a couple hours before you do anything more to it. And then when we come back, I'm gonna make sure that this is on here good by wrapping it with some electrical tape. So I'll show you how we do that when we come back in a couple hours, but really we're just going to let this sit in a place where it's not going to be disturbed. You do want to make sure obviously that this is totally centered in on there nicely. Okay, so we're going to let this dry and I will be back. All right, so after I've got that cap glued on there really well and it's not moving and it's totally secure, I'm going to go around and tape it with some regular black electrical tape. And you want to tape both the arm and the cap a few times, get it on there nice and tight. And then we are ready to go. So the cap just screws right into the top of the spray bottle there. And now you can move on to prep your cup and start glittering and all that fun stuff. Now, I did tape off the top of the cup where that plastic part is. That's really the only part that I wanted to tape off. Don't worry if you get a little bit of epoxy on that black part, the black plastic part. It is really easy to get off of there. But definitely you don't want to. So just use some painter's tape, tape up that top plastic part. Next, I'm going to sand the outside of the spray bottle with some 60 grit sanding blocks. And really we're just going to rough up the surface and then wash it with some dish soap and water, dry it off really well, and then I'm going to spray paint it white with some white matte spray paint. Next, I'm going to trim my vinyl that I'm going to be using for my design. For this one, I want this pattern to come up the first 3 inches from the bottom of the cup, and then I will take up 1 inch of that pink pattern and line it up right over the top of that green tropical pattern. So I just want to trim up those pieces of vinyl first before I put them on the cup because it's going to make my life a lot easier. If your vinyl has any white borders to it, you'll want to trim off those white borders as well. All right, so next I'm going to add my vinyl right over my prepped and spray painted cup. And I'm just gonna do kind of like a dry run really quick, make sure that I have everything lined up and sized correctly. And then we're just gonna put the vinyl on there. I'm not gonna go too into detail with how I do this because I've already done a couple different vinyl wrap videos. But really, you just wanna make sure that you get this first part lined up super straight before you start, and then you're going to apply it to the cup by removing the backing very slowly while you press firmly down on the vinyl, trying to avoid any kind of bubbles and stuff. If you do have a lot of bubbles, you'll just lift up really quick and try again. Also, you can pop any extra little bubbles towards the end with an X-Acto knife and kind of just rub them out to flatten them. Okay, and then once we get to the end here, we're just going to look at where one edge of the vinyl overlaps with the other and kind of trim right over that with our craft knife. That way you kind of have a seamless look. Now, there will be kind of like it's not a seamless pattern, so there is going to be like kind of a weird seam back there, but you do want both edges of the vinyl to kind of overlap each other just barely. Okay, and right here I'm going around and kind of popping any bubbles with my knife and smoothing them out. Okay, and next we're going to repeat the same process with this pink pattern, and we're just going to lay that right over the top of this tropical green pattern. And Again, I'm just very slowly removing the backing and pressing it firmly onto the cup. With the center section, you do kind of want to pull on it a little bit just to keep it straight. The sides of these spray bottles are completely straight up and down, so you don't have to worry about any kind of curvature or tapering, which is why I really like these. So I thought this was pretty easy. Again, we're just pulling and flattening it to the cup as firmly as we can and removing the backing little by little. All right, and when we get to the end here, we're just gonna trim off the excess again with our craft knife. You wanna make sure that the seams for both the patterns are lined up in the same position towards the back. All right, next I'm gonna tape off my patterned vinyl with some blue painter's tape. You do wanna make sure that you run the painter's tape against your clothes or something just to make sure that it's not so sticky. That way you're not going to lift up any of that patterned vinyl later on. You do want to make sure that your seam of tape is completely smooth and fully adhered to the cup, because when we apply our epoxy for the epoxy method glitter, you don't want any of that stuff to kind of leak down in through any kind of wrinkles that you might have had with the tape. I'm going to fully mask off the bottom here. With the rest that's still exposed, I will cover that with some saran wrap. All right, so next we're gonna apply our glitter like I usually do. I'm just using less than 1 milliliter of epoxy, and I'm just going to spread it evenly all the way around the cup. You do wanna make sure that when you get to the top rim up there by that plastic part of the spray bottle, you wanna make sure that you get into that little crevice really well. But again, we don't want to get any of the epoxy onto the plastic up towards the top there. So do be careful up around that top rim. Because I'm using a lighter glitter, I do want to make sure that my epoxy that I'm spreading on here is super thin, super even. So do take your time with this part. All right, next we're gonna apply our glitter. I'm using Bliss from PT Olive Glitters. This is probably my favorite white glitter of all time. Super sparkly, super beautiful, and really to get good coverage on this, you're just gonna kind of go, when I do one color, I kind of like to go over it a little bit conservatively around the whole cup just to make sure I have all my areas covered, and then I go back around it and just really let it rip to make sure that I have all my spaces covered. All right, once we've got everything covered, I'm just going to tap off the excess with a pair of scissors. And then I'm going to remove my saran wrap and my masking tape right away and let this hang on the rack to dry. I'm going to let this dry on my rack for about 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so after my glitter was fully dry, I did retape that vinyl section at the bottom, and I'm going to cover my glitter with Quick Coat. Quick Coat is a clear water-based urethane sealer. You can use polyacrylic in place of this. I will link both of them down below in the description box. Alternatively, you can also just spray seal this super well with like a clear gloss spray paint sealer or something. I just really like sealing my glitter on projects like this where I need to fully isolate the glitter and make sure that none of that glitter travels down into the vinyl sections. So I just retaped off that vinyl section at the bottom, and I'm just carefully applying the Quick Coat sealer. Keep in mind, this is not epoxy. Again, this is just a water-based urethane sealer that's going to really hold our glitter in place. All right, so I've got this fully coated, and I'm gonna let it dry for at least 45 minutes, and then I will remove the tape on both the top and the bottom sections, and then I will replace the tape that I have up there at the top cap, and then we are going to epoxy this as we normally would. It only took me about 20 milliliters of epoxy to coat this. for the first coat. On this cup, I am using Amazing Clear Cast Plus. I can't ever say that name right. And this is the newest epoxy from Alumilite. This is their non-yellowing formula. I did a review on this epoxy last Wednesday. If you'd like to see that, I'll have it linked in this video. And we're just epoxying this cup as I normally would. I am starting in the vinyl sections first. That way I don't accidentally carry any glitter down into the bottom. Now we did seal the heck out of it with that quick coat. However, just to be on the safe side, I always like to start in the non-glittered section first. All right, and then pretty quickly after I got this covered, I did remove the tape right away. You don't have to worry about that epoxy traveling up as it's turning into that plastic part. It's gonna stay put pretty much where it's at as long as you didn't do like a humongous coat. You don't have to worry about it. So anyway, I just removed the tape and then I'm gonna hit this with my torch. I'm gonna let it cure for at least 8 hours. This newer formula, you do need to let it cure for a little longer than the older formula, and then I will put on a second coat. All right, so now that our cup is fully dry, we can go ahead and move on to the decals. You want to make sure that your cup is completely smooth before you put your decals on. So if you do need to do some sanding or do an additional layer before moving on to this step, make sure to get that done first. For this design, I've already cut my decals. I am doing like an offset version of my logo. If you need help creating this shadow or offset layer on your decals, I will link a video in this video that might be helpful for you as well. And then we're just going to get these put on the cup as we normally would. I'm also going to put my stripes on here. I cut these stripes out of just regular vinyl with my Cricut using the shapes feature in Design Space. I cut these stripes at 11.5 inches by 0.20 inches for the dimensions. And I'm just going to follow the natural lines that are already on the cup with the vinyl that I already laid down. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and roll the cup and pull firmly, not tightly, just kind of pull firm while you roll the cup and try to line up that vinyl with the existing lines on the cup. You also want to make sure that the seams of these stripes also line up with the seams of the vinyl pattern that we already put down. So again, we have all our seams towards the back in one place. I'm just going to trim off the excess with my craft knife and repeat the process for that other line. All right, next I'm just going to tape off that top part around the cap there on my spray bottle, and I'm going to apply my final layers of epoxy, and we were done. This cup only took me 3 layers of epoxy total, not including the layer that I put on to apply the glitter. So I think I got great coverage with this newer epoxy. I'm really happy with it. Again, if you guys want to see my full review about how I feel about this epoxy, you can watch last Wednesday's video. Let me know what you guys thought about this tutorial in the comments. I absolutely love how this turned out. I can't wait to make more of these for gifts around Christmas time, or maybe just gifts for like whenever, because they're so cute, so easy to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if you're new to our channel, make sure to hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell button so you don't miss a new tutorial. We do upload every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks for watching. See you soon. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.